Hey, Star Wars fans, welcome to the Credible Nerds podcast. My name is Justin, and I'm here with my fellow co-hosts, my fellow Mandalorians, my fellow Imperial Remnant troopers. We got Nathan in the house.
Hey, everybody.
And we got Blake.
Hey, everyone.
And here we're talking Mandalorian Season 2, Chapter 15, The Believer. So,
do you believe?
Are you a believer? Are you a Monkeys fan? Did you ever listen to that group when you were little, the Monkeys?
I watched the TV show.
I knew one song. That's right.
I'm a believer. Is that the one?
No.
Hey, we're the monkeys.
That they played during the
People
credits.
say we're monkeying around. Yeah.
Anyway.
But I guess that's is that like the original, like boy band that someone put together because they got put together for that TV show.
Yeah, it could be.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I digress.
On another note,
The
Mandalorian. So my question is, before we get started, who is the believer?
Yeah.
What is that a reference to?
And what are they believing?
Yeah, what are they believing? That's a good question. My thoughts were, as the story goes on, Mandalorian goes against something in his creed. So he was a believer in the creed, and then he had to make a decision. So that was what I got out of it. But I think that's kind of vague.
So as Mandalorian, is he the believer?
Yeah.
And are we is he like at a point, a crossroads because of the decisions he has to make in this episode?
Yeah.
Am I a true believer? Do I really believe in what I'm doing? Because as Mayfeld kind of talks to him about, what's going on here, right? I mean, what is it? Is it the mask or is it the face? And at some point we all change our rules when we're pressed. Yeah.
A lot of good things.
Yeah. And that's just a guess. What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, when they're coming in, and we'll get to this, but when they are having that conversation, I think Migs says something like, it's all about, being able to sleep at night. And if you can sleep at night, you're better than most. And so it did feel like it was kind of, maybe that's the thing, kind of a commentary on belief and faith and, what's really important or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so his decision that he has to make is, do I continue with my group, my faith in this creed that I grew up with, that was taught all my life, or do I believe in my relationship with Grogu? So he had to make that decision.
Yeah. What
he believed in. So interesting stuff, a little more deep than what I initially thought it was going to be. So, but yeah, we have Boba Fett and Mandalorian teaming up with Fennic Shand, and they go back. In the previous episode, they had gone back and gotten Cara Dune, and their plan is to get Migs Mayfeld, bail him out of jail, and help him so he can help him out.
Yep.
So we meet up with Migs. He's on this slave planet. We see him disassembling TIE fighters and all this
pretty cool
Imperial machinery. Yeah.
And junkyard.
Yeah, Imperial junkyard basically.
Yeah.
And they break him out, and their plan is to go rescue, or actually, they're going to rescue Baby Yoda, but they have to get some intel first. So,
yeah.
What do you guys think about this plan that they came up with? That they're going to break Migs out to get the info to find out where Moff Gideon is.
Well, I think Blake, right? There's no deal, right? This is like there was no help us and we'll break you. I mean, she took him under, her power and was like, hey, you're coming with us. There was no what's in it for me. He asked the question, but I think, is this our first episode without a deal?
Well, not an agreed upon deal, but then at the end there was a deal. There was a deal.
I guess, sort of, yeah. More or less. Like you talking about when they just let him go.
Yeah.
I mean, they did basically, that gave him what he hoped he was going to get at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there was no verbal deal.
There was no verbal deal. I think this is our first technically undeal episode. No deal.
Making progress.
Turn
like
the
it.
page.
Yeah. Before we go there, I have to say, in that scene, what'd you think when he walks up to Slave One, which I know there's now a new name for the ship, but
Boba Fett's starship.
yeah, but I don't recall what it is because
Fire spray.
Fire spray. And is that the class of ship or is it the name of the ship?
Historically, it was the class, the
Okay.
fire spray class, but I think they've now named it the fire spray.
Interesting.
It's a big mess, big confusing mess.
Yeah. So I liked it when he walks up and he sees Boba Fett and he's like, "Oh, I thought you were the other guy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Mandalorian walks down the ramp and he's just like, but what'd you think of Boba Fett's armor?
It looked better.
Yeah.
It was all cleaned up and painted, but still had the dent, you know, in the head. What was that about? What is this attachment to this dent that
I think at this point you can't change it
yeah.
because we know who Boba Fett is because of the dent.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's kind of like the classic.
It's like a thumbprint.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's got to be there.
But he did clean up pretty well, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I guess we don't know how much time passed, but a couple days.
It's like a fresh coat of paint on it.
Yeah.
It looks sharp.
It's all pimped out.
I liked it.
It was a long flight. You know?
Yeah.
Gotta
It
do
looked
something.
good.
Yeah. It looked like it fit better too.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
good.
Made some adjustments.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool to see him there with the ship waiting for him. So the plan is they got to get Migs into the base so they can access the data from the exclusive secrets. What's the word I'm looking for there?
Well, they need to know where Moff Gideon's ship
Yeah.
is and his
The
coordinates.
classified
Yeah.
machine.
And they go to him and be like, we need to know where Moff Gideon's ship is. And he says the only way you can do that is if you go to this place where there'll be probably a terminal, an internal terminal that I can access to get that information.
In the cafeteria.
In the captain's
One of
mess
the most
hall.
secure locations of any naval base.
Yeah. Yeah. We're okay. Now we got to find the terminal. Where do you think it's at? It's probably in the mess hall, like next to the soda vending machine.
Well, you need it looked like we were talking about this. It looked like an old bank ATM.
Yeah.
So if maybe the terminal is also an ATM, you
Yeah.
need it in
Dispenses Imperial credits.
That's
There you
right.
go. Yeah. Multifaceted internal terminal.
Yeah.
Get your classified information and your check cashed.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, no one else knew how to, well, first of all, find it. He did. Or
Yeah.
operate it, which apparently he did.
Yeah.
So they needed him. And because he used to be an Imperial, was he an officer at some point? Or
I
was he
didn't
just a trooper?
get that.
It seemed like he was a trooper because,
Yeah.
the
commentary later. in
the
episode.
commentary later, like, he didn't obviously,
Yeah.
he wasn't remembered, but
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
troopers can access this terminal with classified information too, apparently.
Yeah.
Which is another.
And he said it was the officer's mess.
Yeah.
But I was like, there were obviously non-officers walking in and out of it and walking around of it. As soon as he said it's probably in the officer's mess hall, I was thinking, well, how are they going to, as soon as they walk up those stairs, the officers, and they're like, hey,
Yeah.
you're not allowed in here. This is officers only. But
Yeah.
but that didn't happen either. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Migs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they get in. Part was pretty cool. They get into this Boba Fett starship, Slave One, and this is the first time that we kind of see how it works.
Yeah.
Because we all had the toy as a kid, or at least played with it, our cousin's toy or something. For me, it was one of my friends had it. My parents were too cheap, but and so you sit there, you play with it, you look at it, you're like, how does that thing work? How do they get in it? And then it rotates, and
Yeah.
so it was cool to see them get in, and as they take off, you see it on the outside kind of shifting, and they're sitting,
Yeah.
they're in a static position.
Yeah. And you see the whole turning, but and a more internal circular hole stays still while it maneuvers around it. Yeah, I saw
the thing
that.
rotates. So that was pretty sweet. I did like that. I clarified that. Not that it was like this big mystery, but it's cool to see.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing something that Dave Filoni, if not both of them, Jon Favreau, sat down and like figured out, okay, how does this work? You
Yeah.
know, because it hadn't been defined yet.
Because I'm sure they had the same question
Yeah.
when they were, because we're probably pretty almost around the same age when
Mm-hmm.
they saw it. They were probably like, my first reaction, and this is for a lot of science fiction ships, including the Millennium Falcon. You know, when you're a little kid, you want to see these spaceships. You think of something a lot more sleek and aerodynamic with the, you know, the jets in the back and the wings on the like the X-wing and shoots from the front. And you see the Millennium Falcon, and when I was a little kid, I was like, that makes no sense. And the cockpit's way off to the side. The blind spots on this thing have got to be the worst.
Yeah.
How does he park that thing?
Yeah.
And then just all lots of different other ships that you see, and you know, you're just like, it always bothered me, some of the design, but as an adult now, I'm like, I love them. I think they're cool. But Slave One was one of them. When I think we see it in Empire for the first time, when you see it flying, you're just like, that's not supposed to fly that way. I totally thought it would fly this way, you know, with the wings to the left and right on the side and the cockpit looking that one direction. But yeah it was weird.
Yeah, so we see that defined, and they head to the planet, and they do a recon mission. They realize that there's a way to get in, and they have to jump on this transport that's transporting this mineral or this substance that they use, that they mine, and from there they're able to they can hijack the transport, get on, and then, you know, sneak inside the base that way. And then when they're done, they need to knock out the guns so Boba Fett can fly a spaceship in and pick them up. So that's their plan. And they have to figure out who's going to go in with Migs, right? With Mayfeld. First, they think Cara Dune, but apparently if they scan her, then her DNA will be picked up, and they'll realize she's on the ISB list of wanted criminals. Same with Fennic Shan and Boba Fett, obviously, because he makes the comment that, well, they'll recognize me. I'm kind of well known. And then, so it has to be Mandalorian. But the problem with him is he can't take off his helmet. So I was like, well, what are we going to do? And he says, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. So when they hijack the thing, they switch uniforms, and he puts on the stormtrooper helmet, or the transport trooper's helmet, and that's how he gets around it.
Yeah.
And so we talked about the next part where they're transporting the goods. Him and Migs have this conversation about, you know, like we talked about, that, you know, when it comes down to it, you'll see what people are made of, how strong their belief systems are.
Yeah. Everyone has rules until those rules get challenged, and what they want or need is a lot more pressing than what their rules or that they may live by, you know, get in the way of what they really, really need or want. And, you know, and at the end of the day, as he says, you know, whatever, as long as you can sleep at night,
Yeah.
which is, I guess, you know, as long as your conscience is clear, you know, that's really all that matters, at least to Mayfeld's point. Which is, you know, it's interesting that, because obviously he kind of took on a life of crime for a while there, but I guess that's to that point, because we kind of come out of this episode, at least I did, kind of respecting Mayfeld, where when we first saw him, we just thought he was this kind of a scummy dirtbag who would stab anyone in the back and didn't like anybody. But I guess that's a nod to the point where he may have been pushed up against the wall and felt like his only way out was to kind of become a thief and a smuggler type person.
Yeah, kind of makes you wonder how he got out. You know.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as we get into the episode, it obviously didn't end well one way or the other. So
Yeah.
And for a criminal, he's got some great insight. He's pretty philosophical.
Yeah.
So I guess he's had a lot of time to think.
And I think this is I don't know about you guys, but did we learn he was formerly in the Empire in the previous episode? Or
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't recall that. Or does that come out in the last episode and this episode?
They had mentioned it in the previous one
Did they?
that he was in, where he was like a stormtrooper, and they kind of made fun of him.
Gotcha. Something about a shooting.
Yeah, sharpshooting, I think. It's like, no, I was a sharpshooter.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, we kind of knew that, but we didn't know the whole mission that he talks about later. That's all new. So,
What'd you think of after they battled I presume the local aliens there? I don't know, or
The pirates.
Pirates or
yeah.
whatever.
I don't know if they're native to the planet, but they fight them off. They survive, which I thought was a pretty cool fight scene.
yeah,
But they get to the bridge where they get in the plant, and they're kind of all getting the salute of, like from all the different storm. What'd you think of that? Was that pretty cool? I thought it was pretty cool.
yeah. It's just a sign of respect that everyone recognized because they were the only ones that survived that day,
Yeah.
bringing their stuff in.
It's kind of like reminded me of Top Gun when they when they land and everyone's on the deck of the ship and they're saluting
Yeah.
and they're like, "Yeah, we did it. We're heroes." I was like, "Wow, these guys, they're right." I wonder if any of them really think that they're really bad, everyone else is, I wonder how much they really think if they really are the bad guys or the good guys. I would suspect most of them probably think we're the good guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that they came across as heroic, but they were killing the locals basically
Right.
and stealing their resources and killing them when they try to get it back.
Yeah.
So that's a good flip there on the stereotype. So yeah, I mean, like you said, that sequence was pretty awesome. They were trying to blow it up, and they just kept coming. They destroyed 1 or 2 ships, and then 3 more came, and then they got rid of those, and then like 4 more came. It's just more and more. Makes me wonder why they just didn't all attack all at once.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed.
I love the thermal detonators though. I thought that was pretty
they
cool.
were pretty cool.
Yeah.
It did make me wonder though why there wasn't a little bit more air cover in this this whole program. They just keep sending trucks out, bringing them back. They get blown up, and
Yeah.
they had a few TIE fighters there.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 previous transports blew up, and then when they were 100 yards away from the base, the TIE fighters finally roll in and destroy them. So it's like, why weren't they there the whole time?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right, so they're there.
They get in the base.
They get in the base.
The meat of the episode, where, like you said, it's in the mess hall. We got to go in there. Migs is like, I can't go in there. That's my old commanding officer. He might recognize me, so you have to go in.
Yeah.
Gets the little USB stick. The Mandor does, and he goes in there and he tries to access it, but it scans the face, which we already knew, and it scans his helmet. It's like, oh, that's not valid.
Yeah.
It's going to shut down in 10 seconds and it starts counting. So he has to take off his helmet for the first time in public. And it scans his face. It works out okay, transfers the data. But then the officer comes over and starts questioning him.
Yeah.
So as far as this part of you guys mentioned, it looks like an old ATM. Why is it anybody can access it? We've kind of talked about that. You guys were talking about the buttons on the machine.
Well, I was just
tech.
talking about how it seems like a lot of these science fiction shows, there's just there tends to be 3 or 4 buttons and a toggle switch, and they're able to, compute mass, complex equations and get all this information by punching 2 or 3 buttons and moving 2 or 3 toggles. And regardless of the show, I mean, even if you watch Aliens or the Alien movies or anything, it's just flashing lights and buttons. Mm-hmm. And how anyone is able to know what button to push and how and where and what it gets you, I have no idea. It's just kind of one of those tropes that's always cracks me up.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as we talked about, what's the purpose of the face scan? Obviously, he's not in the Empire, so it wasn't looking for him to get access. So I guess they don't really care about preventative security, just catching you after you break into their systems.
Yeah. So, Blake, you work at a bank. Is that good security?
Yeah, that's how we do it. Just make sure you have a face, or if you type in a password, that it's a password of some kind.
Just type in password.
And then give you whatever you need.
Yeah.
But we will take a picture of you, and so we can find you after the fact.
Yeah. Get our money back.
Get our money back.
So, yeah, interesting. I don't know. I don't want to call them plot holes, but
Yeah, definitely not plot holes, just kind of like, I mean, you guys are watching Andor right now, I assume, and the common theme in that show is the Empire they're too powerful to care. They don't. I mean, they're so powerful that they're oblivious to this stuff, and they don't care because they don't feel like they can really be damaged.
Yeah, who would stand up to them?
Yeah, maybe it's kind of that same principle.
I'm sure it's the similar attitude because it's the same people, right? Just a few years later.
I mean, at your bank, do you guys keep your top security computers in the cafeteria? In the cafeteria,
we do.
Yeah,
we do. Sometimes outside, whatever.
Right next to the ATM machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some interesting things going on there, but
with not even a door to like just a couple steps, stairs into the cafeteria.
Just bring up your little memory stick, put it in, and
plug it in.
The officers' cafeteria that clearly anyone can walk in and out of.
The VP's cafeteria.
That's right.
All the VPs are there hanging out.
Yeah.
Do you guys have do you have like up on the top floor of your building? Do you have like the VP mess hall?
No, we do not.
Not that you know of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got invited to the VP mess hall.
Yeah. So, but this officer questions him, and then Mayfeld has to step in. He has to expose himself anyway. So they sit down, they start talking, and we hear this story about this massacre that happened on his watch when Mayfeld was part of his group. And the more he talks, the more he explains it. Like, yeah, those guys died heroes. And Migs is like, did they though?
Yeah.
Not really. They're dead.
Yeah.
And we just massacred all these people on this planet.
You could see I don't think he meant the conversation to go there.
Right.
But I think just sitting there across from this guy, it started to eat at him. And
all this resentment.
All that. Yeah, resentment
comes up. Came up. I love that scene. It was great.
It was good. Yeah. Bill Burr, he did a good job there.
And was that a nod to the Han Solo Greedo cantina thing?
I think so.
Just pulling out his blaster and just blasting him away, just an unarmed, just murdering him.
Very unambiguous.
Yeah.
They're not. No question about it, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, yep, he's doing it.
Yeah. And he did it, and they look at each other like, I just did that.
Like, oh, crap. We got to get out of here. So, but yeah, Bill Burr, he's a comedian by nature, and he pulled off this whole episode really well.
He did.
He had his comedic moments. He was joking, but there's some serious beats here that he pulled off really well.
Yeah. Yeah, at one point he made a TPS report.
Oh, yeah. That was a great reference.
That was all right, yeah.
I love Office. It's Office Space, right? That's the name of the movie. Yeah, I love that movie.
That was good.
Classic. When he first said that, I was cracking up. Hey, let's go work on those TPS reports.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Great reference.
And that officer, what was his name? Richard Brake. It was played by Richard Brake.
Uh-huh. Hess, was it?
Yeah. And he did great. I mean, he was just that
villainous, smug and
imperial.
Yeah. Balin Hess. Yeah, great bad guy.
Mm-hmm. They played off each other really well. And so the crux of this episode is, since it's entitled Believer, Mando's sitting there, Din Djarin sitting there with his helmet off this whole time, and Migs is there talking to him. They're looking at each other. So this is a huge step in his life, basically, right? It's like if you were a religious person and you committed like the ultimate sin, basically.
Yeah.
One of the cardinal sins, I guess.
I think you nailed it when you said at the beginning that this is probably what this is really about. And is Din Djarin, is he a believer? Is he a true believer? And what limits is he willing to do when he's pressed to go over or to cross to get what he wants? Mm-hmm. And does he consider himself a true believer, even though he may step outside of the lines a little bit? Mm-hmm. But yeah, as you mentioned, this is like a top rule you just don't do.
Yeah, they've mentioned it several times in the season already.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, well, what's more important, rescuing the life of my friend or taking out my helmet? Like, what's more important? I think that's the decision he has to make. It's not black and white, as I think it's in the book of Boba Fett where he admits that he did that to the
Yeah.
armorer, his religious leader. And it's like, for her, it's black and white. You don't do it.
Yeah.
If you do it, it's wrong.
Yeah.
You're out of the group.
Oh, yeah.
You're out of the club.
Yeah. But for him, it's like, it's not that simple. It's like, I had to get this to save my friend.
Sometimes you got to crack a few eggs,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I think he said that.
Yeah.
Didn't he? In Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Got to crack some eggs sometimes.
Make an omelet.
Yeah. Yeah. So they shoot the guy, and then there's a big shootout. Everyone's onto him. So they got to escape. And they just start blasting troopers, officers, everybody who comes after him. One thing I did notice is when they're shooting the officers with the laser guns, I noticed that when they got shot in the chest, you saw the laser burn their chest.
Mm-hmm.
Which, as a child, when I saw A New Hope, that's what I saw, and I was like, whoa, this is serious stuff. You know, they're getting their chest blown off, and it was a throwback to that for me. It kind of reminded me of that. We hadn't really seen that because usually when someone gets hit with a laser blast, they just fall down.
Yeah.
You know, there's no serious consequence.
I think there was a little bit of that in A New Hope when the theatrical release in the prison breakout scene. They kind of cut away right before anyone got hit, and then when they re-released it, that was that extra 1 or 2 seconds where you actually see a blaster hit that one guy who's unarmed, and that kind of, I don't know, you tell me, did that like change the rating? Did that take it to like from a PG to PG-13? I know PG-13 didn't exist when it first came out, right? But I do remember there was some discussion about that. A re-edit of the new release that they let some of that play out a little more, right?
Yeah, and I don't know the reasons. I think maybe it's just one of those instances where George Lucas is fiddling with his movie, like he did with the Han shot first thing, right? He changed that 3 or 4 times, and some other things, just because it's for kids. So I think they went to it, and then they backed off because it's too gruesome or too graphic or whatever for the kids. So they eventually backed off from that. But yeah, that's what it reminded me, because I remember seeing that as a kid and I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
he's dead.
Yeah. He got shot. I thought it was funny that when they're bringing the transport in and all the soldiers run out and the pirates are still coming, those troopers have no problem hitting those pirates. They're blasting away left and right.
Sharpshooters.
Right. And then in this mess hall shooting scene, it's miss, and these guys are like, and Mando and Feldman are like, they're like, you know,
They're not even aiming.
They're not even aiming. They're shooting. They're from the hip, and they're like
standing
nailing
in a window.
Yeah.
Perfect silhouette to shoot at.
Did you like the part where he leaned down and shot the guy as he's trying to crawl out from the window? Yeah.
Shot him right in the gut.
Yeah.
But one thing we did see earlier that I didn't bring up when they're on the transport is Mando, he's shooting with the pistol at the pirates and it runs out of laser bolts.
Oh, yeah.
It like clicks.
Yeah. I saw that too, and I thought, I didn't know you could run out a laser.
Yeah. I think it's the first time we ever saw that in Star Wars.
Has that happened before?
No,
Yeah.
not that I remember.
Running out of ammo, reloading.
Get another clip in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably a throwback to the old Westerns, but
Yeah, I guess. Well, in laser tag, you just have to tilt your gun, and then it reloads.
Yeah,
right?
that.
So
There you go. You just forgot to
I
tilt
assume
it.
it's the same.
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so they're escaping from the mess hall, and they're getting help from Fennic Shand and Cara Dune, and
Batteries died. That's what it was.
they're picking them off as they make their escape to the Slave One. They jump on it, take off. TIE fighters chase them, and here we see the Sonic
Torpedo.
Yeah,
Boom.
forget the
Mine.
I know what it is. I just can't remember. But anyway, and we get that that awesome sound effect, one of the best in Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yep.
There's just sucks in the sound, and then it makes that twang sound and destroys those TIE fighters. And they're able to escape. And this is when, at the end, they kind of meet up again with everybody, and they like, oh, it's too bad Mayfeld died in this assault. We'll have to file a report saying he died. And he's like, what? No, I didn't. Then he finally got it.
I'm right here, guys.
Yeah.
It called seismic charges.
Yeah, seismic charges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
That was a cool scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they let him go. And I'm sure we'll see him again.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll show up in season 3, I bet.
Mayfeld.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we do.
Yeah.
Great character. Yeah, I enjoyed seeing him on there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't figure out a way to give him back his third gun that pops out, and has that, or was it 2? Was it 1 or 2?
It was just 1.
Yeah. I'm like, that would have been cool if they had like brought that along and handed it to him. But obviously they wouldn't have fit with the stormtrooper uniform. But
Yeah.
Next season.
yeah,
I was like, the planet they were on, they let him go, and I kind of thought, where is he going?
yeah. Where's he gonna go?
Where's he gonna go?
He's just gonna go to the local village.
Just go live in that local village
yeah.
with
Maybe get a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And just live a quiet life.
Farmer's life.
Farm. Yeah.
maybe.
I'm sure he'll find a widow
He'll probably join the pirates. I tell you.
There'll be a widow with a son, whose dad was killed by a stormtrooper, and he'll take him. Classic storyline there.
Yeah. So and then they're able to track down Gideon and send him a message that they're coming for him.
Yeah,
he has what they want, and he's coming for it.
yeah. The quote,
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
That was good. Yeah, that's how I'm going to start talking to my wife when I call her. You have something I want. I'm coming for you.
It means
I'm
more
your
to
worst
you.
nightmare.
Yeah, it means more to me than it does to you.
They're just cheeseburgers, honey.
It better be in the oven. It better come with a side of fries and a Coke.
Yeah. So a good episode. Any tie-ins to previous ones that we haven't talked about, or the universe in general? Previous movies that you guys noticed, or we haven't talked about yet?
Not that we haven't already mentioned. I did like the opening scene, the junkyard. To me, that was kind of like maybe a throwback to like, okay, the Empire is done and gone, and they're just kind of trashing it. But when they are in the mess hall scene, he's the officer that Mayfeld's talking to is kind of what we talked about earlier. The Republic's in a mess, he says, and he says, he says something to the effect of mentioning a new order, and I'm like, oh, there you go, yeah. First order.
Yeah, he said something like, they say they want freedom, but what they really want is order.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I thought that was
good catch.
A nod to that, a future first order to take over the Empire. But clearly they're, again, we're watching this and the Empire was defeated, but they weren't obliterated. They clearly still exist and are still operating,
One thing that I thought of while you were talking about that is when they rescued Mayfeld, he was on a New Republic situation, right?
I assume so, yeah. With a New Republic robot sentry guard, yeah.
And they were recycling all the Imperial garbage.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an Imperial, like the first time I watched it, and the second time, that it was an Imperial
planet,
prison, but that wouldn't make sense because he was caught by the rebels in the previous episode that he was in.
My assumption is that's a Republic planet. It may have been an Imperial planet, but it's now overseen by the Republic, and it's basically probably a junkyard, and they're bringing Empire tech and just dumping it on the planet for these
recycling
these prisoners to dismantle and because you see, and even I kind of had Imperial walkers with cranes again. Yeah. Another reference. We saw that reference in the previous episode, walk around carrying things. So, I think that's a sign that in some parts of the universe, the Empire is gone, but clearly they're not. And they're not only not gone, but they're actually operational.
Yeah.
And operational on a organized level, on multiple planets, and hence why the Republic has to have these scouts and guards and people still flying around, because even though the Palpatine's gone, right, and the Republic is taken over, it's almost kind of like that doesn't mean the political party, the Empire, and they're not still around, because the galaxy's huge, right?
Yeah. I hope they define that in the future, hopefully next season, where, what is the Empire actually doing? Like, are they hiding out, or are they rebuilding, or both,
rebuilding.
Yeah.
I guess? Yeah.
We talked about a little bit earlier also about just the vastness of the galaxy, because to me it was always like Coruscant and then the Outer Rim. You had and we learned that there's 5, 6, 7 different kind of
the inner core, the core,
Yeah.
mid rim, outer rim,
Yeah.
unknown regions.
It's massive.
Hot space.
I didn't know that until we watched that episode.
Yeah. So hopefully they define that, what the Empire's up to, what their, maybe Moff Gideon reveals what their end game is, since he's in the end of this, in the next episode, he's captured. And hopefully they can get some information that we, the viewers, can hear and learn about. So I think that's important to know the state of the galaxy.
And it feels like it's kind of building to that, because you remember the first couple of episodes, and there's a couple of stormtroopers. They're all dirty and, disorganized, and then it's built into, like, even this little dialogue that happened in this with between Migs and his old commander. Like, the commander's like, yeah, there's something happening. You get that feeling that there is organization, and all this is, and it's kind of built up that way throughout the series.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a bigger deal than I thought. Kind of every episode. So.
Yeah. So the guild, that planet that the guild was on, clearly the Empire is not, they don't have a presence there, but you've got these stormtroopers who are kind of now just...
Well, they had that base.
Well, they had the base, but wasn't it like, that's the cloning base,
That
right?
blew up, yeah.
Yeah. But there was not very many people there,
right.
10 or 12 of that. I mean, it seemed like it was a very small contingent there.
Well,
So they were
that, though, I think they got out there. They're like, this is supposed to be closed down. And then they get in there and it's operational somewhat.
I think those are part of the organized part of the Empire. And then the ones that you referenced that are dirty and walking around with the boss, the guy who hired
The client.
Yeah.
I think I don't think they were associated. I think the ones that were working for him were kind of like
mercenaries
who.
But wasn't the scientist there, that young scientist? It's the same scientist that worked with Moff Gideon, though.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah,
It's interesting.
I think that he was, I think he was, the client was working with him and hired him and trying to get, through the guild and through bounty hunters, get, him to him. But I don't think those stormtroopers were associated. I think the ones that working for the client were not part of the Empire anymore.
His personal guard.
Because I mean, you just don't see stormtroopers who look that disheveled and unorganized. Yeah. And even when Moff Gideon shows up, there's like the fight ready, clean, tough with all the tech.
Yeah, they got the flamethrower trooper, the death troopers.
Yeah.
Completely different than when Mando goes in to rescue Grogu, in that episode, he's able to take those stormtroopers. I'm just wondering if you've kind of got two different. You got the Empire who's still going, and
because it's kind of like if you go to Disneyland and you go to the brand new ride and all of the workers there have a brand new uniform and they're really good at their job.
Yeah.
And then you go to the very back of the park to like an old ride that they're about to shut down. Those guys still work for Disney, but they are not the same.
Mr. Roger Rabbit's Wild Ride.
Exactly.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know.
But they were clearly working for the client. They were protecting him. And So, but I think that there are different levels of organization depending on different that those levels of organization depend on where you're at in the universe. In some parts they may be very organized, as we've seen. In other parts they're just kind of like don't it really exist, and the locals probably think they're all but gone. But but clearly, to me, I think that was a deliberate reference. You know, they're looking for order. I don't think that was coincidental. I think they made that reference to kind of allude to like the new order. This is the beginning of the new order.
So if that's the path that we want to go down, which I think is a good theory for sure. So the First Order rises from the ashes of the Empire, because he's referring to the Order. So he's in on something. He's in on maybe some higher plans, and he's part of that transition to the First Order.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, I can buy that. Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, who cares?
Yeah, but I like it because I do want to see the two things I want to see from this show. One of the many things, I guess, but what we're talking about here is the state of the Empire, where they're at, how many of them are there? Are they still organized as a complete whole? Or are they just pockets everywhere doing what they want?
Yeah.
Is Moff Gideon in charge, or is there someone above him? Kind of how's this Empire working right now? And then the second part would be the transition or the introduction of the First Order.
Yeah.
Just the seeds of it.
So this is season 2. We know season 1 was 5 years post Return of the Jedi. So is this maybe year 6 or year 7, maybe? Give or take?
I think it's all one continuous thing. So maybe 2 years have passed.
2, yeah.
Maybe.
And so let's say, is it Rise of the Resistance? What is the episode 7?
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. So she's on Rey's on Jakku, and she gets left there probably when she's like 5, 6, 7 years old, 8 or 9. I mean, so is Rey like being born right around this time now?
That's a good question.
And if not, she's got to be coming pretty quickly.
So Force Awakens is 30 years after Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
The show starts 5 years, so that's 25 years.
And then
so Force Awakens.
Yep.
And
so
she's
20,
about 20.
20. So maybe another 5 years. But definitely Poe Dameron and Finn are probably alive, a little, young, right? And walking around. And so Kylo Ren, yeah.
Yeah.
Ben and Leia. Their relationship might be kind of like coming to an end. Kylo, I don't know, or maybe in another year or two.
Yeah. I think Ben Solo is he's still 5 or under. I would say like
probably still young, because he doesn't go see Luke until he's probably, like
12 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't look it in the movie, but he's supposed to be, I assume, like a young teenager. Yeah, like 15, 16, 17. Yeah.
So I think maybe at the end of this, they're transitioning into those characters.
Yeah.
More.
We haven't seen a direct reference to the movies in any of these TV shows. Like,
I don't think so.
Well, yet, obviously we do, but as far as characters go, we will have a big one here pretty soon.
Next episode.
But that's and then in
Book of Boba Fett,
we will have another one from the animated, obviously, and of course Ahsoka's getting her own series. But I really hope ultimately, like, we have another couple references, tie-ins, characters from the movies, and where we see kind of like just even a glimpse of like, oh, that's that thing, and that's in Rise of the Resistance. That's in, even if it's like a baby Poe or like a young Finn getting kidnapped and taken or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be really cool to me.
Yeah. I hope there's some lead in there. Hopefully, that would require 5 seasons of The Mandalorian with maybe some time jumps.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming or hoping that there'll be a time jump from season 2 to season 3, with Book of Boba Fett kind of obviously happened in between there.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be fair to say. Good guess. Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Blake?
No, we talked about it all. I think it was good.
How would you rate this episode?
It was, I mean, I think the action was good. I think Bill Burr brought a little bit of, levity and then also some drama there. I did appreciate that because sometimes you don't get that was a rich backstory for him. That was pretty cool and a meaningful backstory, right? And so, like we talked about, I hope we see him again. It kind of feels like they're pulling together their group, for something that'll come up in the future, kind of like it did in Book of Boba Fett a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an entertaining one, and of course, good build up for the one we'll talk about next time. That's it.
Yeah.
What about you, Nathan?
Great episode. Like an 8, 9, definitely up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we joke and poke fun at stuff, but it's great. I enjoy it.
Yeah, same. I'd give it about 8.5. Yeah, maybe 9. This is definitely one of those core episodes. When I first saw it, I was like, yeah, it's good. But the second rewatch, I really liked it. It would because that point, the whole story up to that, up through season 2. You know where it fits, what's coming next, what happened before, all that. So it's more entertaining, right? More. So for me, it's more entertaining.
Yeah.
And it was a Star Wars episode in my mind. I mean, you got Slave One, you got Boba Fett. One of the great scenes in my mind is at the beginning when they're on the Slave One planning to infiltrate the base, and it's Boba Fett, Din Djarin, Fennic Shan, Cara Dune, Migs Mayfeld. They're planning what they're going to do. And I was like, oh, that is so awesome to see all those characters together on the Slave One.
Yeah.
That's Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, and then when it ends, just with the message from the Mandalorian, it's kind of like he finally, he really means business.
Yeah.
Like he's now completely focused, determined, and, growing up in the 80s, like what movie didn't have like that? Thinking like Rambo, when he's like, Murdoch.
Yeah.
Like he's getting electrocuted, and he's like, Murdoch, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
And then he comes for him, you know. And so the 10-year-old inside of me, like that last episode or that last scene, and I'm pretty, got pretty excited for the next one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff for sure. Yeah. So that's it for our review of this episode, chapter 15, The Believer. And definitely subscribe to our channel. Like the video, comment on the video. What did you think about The Believer? Who's the believer? Are our theories correct on Din Djarin being the believer and what he's believing?
You must believe my theories.
Yes. Let us know what you think. If you have a different opinion, same opinion. We'll comment on some of our other videos. We have people commenting, and we like to go back and forth and talk about it. So definitely do that on this one. Subscribe to the channel. Like I said, doesn't cost you anything. It helps us out. Helps us produce more cool videos like this one, cool reviews. And next up, we'll be reviewing chapter 16 of this season. And we got a surprise guest showing up. And we'll talk about who it is. By now, you probably know. It was as soon as it aired.
No, we're gonna have a surprise guest on our show.
Yeah. Luke Skywalker is showing up.
Mark Hamill.
Tune in.
We've reached out to his people. We haven't heard back, but you never know.
Yeah, yeah. I sent him a tweet. I tagged him in a tweet like, "Hey, Mark Hamill,
wouldn't that
be on our podcast, please?"
Yeah,
I'll do it. I'm gonna do it.
You might call in. You never know.
Yeah. So anyway, but in the episode,
that would be a very boring podcast because I would just sit here and not say anything.
I know.
So what do you think Luke Skywalker ate for breakfast this morning?
Yeah,
Mr. Hamill.
And he'd be like, "Guys, you got me here. I mean, this is like chance in a lifetime. This is
I came all this way. This is it.
Yeah. You got me on here. This is it. You want to talk about the Mandalorian? Yeah.
Well, you need to get a fourth microphone just in case.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have one.
He'll phone it in.
Yeah,
we'll zoom
he probably would call.
Yeah.
He'd get lost coming out here.
So anyway, yeah. Next episode has a special guest in the episode by the name of Luke Skywalker. As soon as he showed up in the episode, the internets blew up. Everybody was talking about it. So we'll talk about that episode and well they pulled it off.
Yeah.
If they did pull it off.
You gotta watch those reaction videos. People who
Yeah.
record themselves watching that episode. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
I did not cry, but I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. We will never do a reaction video on this podcast, but they're entertaining.
You're not a fan of reaction videos? No.
As a whole, no.
Yeah.
As a theory, as a thing, no. But there are some that are like kind of entertaining. I don't know if they're trying to be funny, but some of them are kind of funny.
Well, I mean, I guess if I watch something and I'm like, wow, like I would never watch just any reaction video, right? But I would watch one where I know that in that episode something huge happened and I had a big reaction, so I am curious as to seeing how other people would react to seeing something similar. Mm-hmm. It would probably be fun to do not a reaction video, even though that what it is, but to watch a show, like the three of us watch an episode
And do a commentary.
and just commentary. But then again, I hate people who talk
when you're watching
I watch an episode, right? You know, but I can be a pretty bad offender too. So if I've already seen it, the second go around, I'll just talk and talk.
Yeah.
But I do that anyways.
Yeah, maybe we can do that somehow. I think that's a good idea. I'd like to do something like that. So anyway, thanks for joining us, guys, here on the Credible Nerds podcast, and may the force be with you.
Or not.
Or join the dark side.